Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Happier Life podcast. I'm your host, Clare Deacon. After deciding survival wasn't enough, I set out on a path to live my best life. I wanted to thrive. Now I'm on a mission to support others. Think you're not good enough, confident enough, brave enough? I'm here to tell you you are, and you can achieve anything. This is your time, so let's do this. Hello and welcome back to the Happier Life podcast. I'm Clare Deacon, your trauma-informed positive psychology coach and therapist, and a recovering overdoer who once thought that rest was just lazy. Sound familiar? If you're someone who's been taught that hustle equals worth, that doing more means being more valuable, then you are not alone. And today we're going to turn that story on its head, because here's the truth. Rest isn't a reward, it's a requirement. In this episode, we're unpacking why rest is the most underrated productivity hack, how overworking is often a trauma response, and how to finally embrace ease, rest without guilt, without shame, and without feeling like you've dropped the ball. So, whether you're tuning in on your morning walk, taking a breather between Zoom calls, or miracle of miracles, lying down for a proper rest, this one's for you. Let's be honest for a moment. We are not just tired, we are soul tired. And it's not because we're doing too little, it's because we're doing too much with too little space to breathe. You ever notice how we glorify exhaustion like it's a trophy? Busy has somehow become a badge of honor. It's like we've kind of collectively agreed that if you're not running yourself into the ground, you must not be trying hard enough. Somewhere along the way, we internalized this belief that rest is only okay when everything else has been done. And let's be honest, everything is never done. A never ending to-do list. That's not a productivity tool. That's actually a recipe for burnout. If you found yourself constantly snappy, wired but tired, or staring at a screen with your brain screaming for a nap, it might not be about willpower. It might be about rest. So let's get deeper. Overworking isn't always about ambition. Sometimes it's about survival. Many of us learned to stay busy as a way to avoid discomfort, to outrun the anxiety, and to prove that we're good enough. If you grew up in chaos, in criticism, in environments where your worth was tied to what you did, then of course rest feels foreign. And one of the things I think it's important to recognize is it's not necessarily the expectations that were placed on us directly, but it can be indirectly. So it can be what we have observed in others. So maybe you had a parent that felt it was unsafe to rest, that their worth was demonstrated by their productivity. And they may have verbalized that to you, and you've taken that on board as your own story as well, because that's what you have witnessed life to be. So rest feels foreign. Maybe it feels unsafe even to just sit and be still. It might have meant that rest was about being vulnerable, about being unproductive. And that may have equated to being unlovable if you're showing and demonstrating those traits. So if you've learned to keep going, to keep doing, to keep moving, I hear you. I know this because I've lived it myself. After my husband passed away, evenings became the hardest part of the day. It was the moment that the house was quiet and the kids were asleep. It should have been a time for me to rest, but I couldn't. I would find another job to do, another drawer to organize, another distraction, something else that I could get on top of. Trying to sit down, sit still on the sofa at the end of the evening, I probably wouldn't even make it into the seated position before I'd already decided, oh, I could just go and do that, or I could just sort this, or get on top of something else. Because if I stopped, the grief might catch up, the wheels may come off. I had to be ready. I had to keep going. And honestly, it was one of the first signs that I was living in hypervigilance. It was a symptom of PTSD. That coping mechanism, it helped me survive in those days, but it also blocked me from healing. And maybe you can recognize some of those patterns in yourself too. So, my favorite bit, let's get nerdy for a minute because this isn't just about feelings, it's about facts. Neuroscience tells us that rest isn't passive, it's productive. Our brains need downtime so that they can get on with the job of processing information, of forming memories, of making decisions, and being creative. You know, those moments when you have your best ideas, they come to you in the shower gods reveal some powerful idea. Or perhaps it's right before you go to sleep. That's not a fluke. That's your brain finally getting the space it needs to connect the dots. So those ideas and opportunities is where your brain has actually been given the space to do what its job and what it wants to do and needs to do. Rest also is there to help regulate our nervous system. When we're constantly in a go mode, we stay in a state of hyperarousal. So that's the fight or flight. It floods our body with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And long term, that leads to burnout, anxiety, poor sleep, and even chronic illness. Rest is what brings us back. It helps us calm and to digest. It allows our parasympathetic nervous system to do its job of healing, repairing, and restoring. So, yeah, rest isn't a luxury, it's biology. So, let's pause for a second and really sit with this. What if rest is part of the work? We tend to define productivity as output, as doing more, but what if we redefined it as doing what matters and doing it well? You can't do that when you're running on empty. Think of it like this. You wouldn't expect your phone to work without charging it. So why expect yourself to? When we honor our need for rest, we work smarter, we show up better, we create more impact with less effort. And more importantly, we stop tying our worth to our output. We start living, not just functioning. Okay. So let's talk about the practical steps because I know rest sounds great in theory. Wow. So, number one tip, schedule rest like it matters because it does. Block time in your calendar, not just to collapse after everything's done, but proactively. Morning works, morning walks, afternoon lie downs, digital detox evenings. Protect that time like it's a meeting with your most important client, because the reality is it is, and that client is you. Make that rest time a non-negotiable. I had a client once who, for various different reasons, had to adjust their calendar quite often of what they were weren't able to do. So certain things would be put in pencil. And those generally tended to be the things that served her best. So we had a phrase that it was time to put it in a permanent marker. And that's what I want you to do, is to stop seeing your rest time as being a piece that can be rescheduled and moved out when other priorities seem to take over. Okay. So, number two, notice guilt and get curious. If rest feels wrong, don't ignore it, explore it. Whose voice is telling you you are lazy? What old beliefs are at play? Often, what we feel in the moment is really an echo from the past. It's a story that you've been holding on to. You're not lazy, you're learning a new way of being. So, three, start small. Rest doesn't have to be a weekend a bit away, a full spa day. It can be a 5 minute breather, a mindful tea break, a moment where you sit and stare out of the window without doing. So, fourth, celebrate your rest. Talk about it, normalize it, model it for others. Let others see how you value rest as much as the hustle. That way, you get to change culture, you get to change the environment in which you're living in. Hopefully, it'll be catching that people will promote rest. Number five, ask yourself, what would it what would ease look like today? What would it feel like for things to be, well, make it a daily check-in? Not what do I need to push through today, but where can I soften or where can I pause? If you're unsure what recharges or re-energizes or reinvigorates you, then check out the Happier Survival Kit course. It's foundational in achieving a happier, more fulfilling life. You'll find the link in the show notes, or you can reach out to me directly. It's an important way to integrate self-care and well-being for you as an individual, because these things are personal and unique to you. What your joy is, what your harm is individual. It's no generic answer of having a bubble bath and lighting a candle. So let's acknowledge something important. Sometimes rest doesn't just feel difficult, it feels impossible. If you're listening and thinking, there's no way I can afford to rest right now, I hear you. Maybe you're a caregiver, a single parent, an entrepreneur. Maybe you're holding up everyone else's world and feel like if you stop, it will all fall apart. But here's the truth: you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't lead from burnout. And you don't have to earn your rest through suffering. You're allowed to rest because you exist, not because you've finished the list. So, what if the most powerful thing you do this week is nothing? What if the needle moves, not because you pushed harder, but because you paused for longer? What if the secret to success wasn't more hustle, but more healing? If that's the kind of productivity you want more of, the kind that feels aligned, energized, and sustainable, then you're in the right place. And you don't have to do it alone. You can always book a free chat with me, and I'm happy to help you work through what suits you and your needs. So let's talk about how rest can be your revolution and start making those changes today. Make rest your non negotiable. Until next time, rest well and remember you don't need to do more to be more. You are already enough. If you've enjoyed this episode, ensure you hit subscribe, head on over to my website happyacoach.com, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and let me support you in living a happier life. I'm your host, Clare Deacon. Thank you for listening. Have a fabulous day.